So hello, my name's Helen Sanderson, and what I want to do is build on what Lorraine's been talking about and really explain the nuts and bolts of how a new approach could work. This started from a piece of work that we were doing, and we were working with 3 quite innovative councils to look at how we could further develop support planning. And we asked people about how many, what percentage of disabled people are doing their own support plans. And they thought for a few minutes and did some totting up the table, and they came up with 1 to 2%. So clearly we're not doing enough to enable people to do their own support planning, and what we should be looking for is about 40 to 60% of people doing their support plans. So we need to do something differently. And a lot of the thinking about support planning has been focused on the who. Who are the best people to do support planning? But it's a different question that I want to explore with you now, is the how do we make it happen in a way that assumes that people can do this for themselves, that it's as easy as possible for people. And here's one way of doing it. So the first question here, and you've got one of these on your desk. So you're working with somebody, let's imagine this person's called Ian, and the social worker's called John. And what we want to, and Ian's got his indicative allocation. So the conversation that John has with Ian is, now that you've got your indicative allocation, there's a few things that we need to think about together to enable you to do your support plan. And the first thing is, as Stephen Covey says, let's begin with the end in mind. Let's know what information you need at the end of your support plan. And this probably isn't showing somebody a support plan, it's recording a summary of the key information, ideally onto one sheet of paper, and then that gets shared with whoever is signing that off. So the first thing is sharing that simple information. So this is an example from Holton that's for individuals who have a personal budget that says, here's the information that we're going to need from you at the end of the process to get your support plan signed off. So that's the first thing to look at. And then the next thing is, how can we enable you to do your support plan? And I wonder if this is a bit like cooking. Now, I'm not a great cook myself, but I know from my friends and family there are lots of different approaches to getting going with cooking. So some of you might like a very detailed step-by-step approach to doing your support plan, and I believe that that's the approach that Delia takes in her cooking. So if this step-by-step approach is what would work for you, then John might be sharing with Ian a guidebook that's called the Step-by-Step Guide to Support Planning. So you do a bit and then it takes you on to the next bit and the next bit. So doing your support plan is about working through something step by step. Now, other people might prefer, well, I know what the key elements are, I'm going to throw them together and do it my own way, which I believe is more a Jamie style of cooking. And if that's the approach that would work for you, there's a card pack here that's got a range of tools and resources for people to do their support plan. So what Ian might be doing is saying, okay, if that's the approach that works for you, I'll leave this with you for a couple of weeks, see if it works for you. And that's the toolbox to support planning approach, so a range of tools. Now you can either have that in a hard copy, like the cards, or Ian might be the kind of person that likes to do his work online. So there's an online version as well. There's a website called thinkandplan.com where you can go on, and there's lots of different templates. You can type in your information, print them out, and then that can become your support planner. So if you like the kind of Jamie Oliver style of support planning, lots of tools, you can pick and mix, do it in an order that makes sense to you, still get something great at the end of it, that might work. Another approach, so you might prefer to the Nigella approach to cooking, which might be watching Nigella on TV and following it as much as you can yourself. So what we really need is lots of YouTube examples or disabled people on YouTube saying, here's how you do your support plan, or here's different things that we've done that might be useful. Your approach might be to go out for a meal with a couple of friends, eat a dish you really enjoy and say, tell me about that, talk me through your recipe, sharing recipes. So I think every care manager or whoever is helping people with support planning needs to have their own arsenal of example support plans so that you can see in true Blue Peter style, here's other ones that have been done before you, and that might be inspiring and just what people want to get them going as well. Other people might prefer to go on a course and learn cooking with other people, and if that's the style that works for you. And of course, these are just the different learning styles that all of us have, and we need to have these replicated in ways of support planning. There's a process of enabling people to do their support planning called something like Planning Live, where you get together with other disabled people in real time, often with a facilitator, to do your support planning live with other people and get lots of resources and support that way. So what John would do is share with Ian, here's a wide range of different ways that you can get started with your support plan. Which one would work best for you? So let's imagine that Ian says, well, actually, I'd like to just have a go at it myself. So I'd like to borrow your pack of support cards, and I'll probably look at the online version as well. And please leave your example support plans with me, because I'd like to look at some of those as well. And I'll get started over the next week. The next thing that John would ask is, when do you want me to contact you again? And how shall I do that? So that might be by text, by email, by phone. So Ian and John would negotiate together how long it would be before John gets back into contact and what way. So let's imagine they've decided on 2 weeks, and 2 weeks have gone past, and that the preferred way of getting in touch is by phone. So John gives Ian a ring and says, how are you getting on? And Ian said, well, some of this has been great. It really helped looking at the example support plans. I've used a couple of tools from the support planning card set. I sat down with a couple of friends and they helped me think about some of it as well. So I've got a really good idea about how I'm going to achieve some of my outcomes. But I'm a bit stuck with the money bit. I think I need a bit more help in figuring out how to put a budget together. So how can you help me with that, John? So then John might say, well, in Manchester, we've got a drop-in service at the local SIL. So on Tuesdays, Wednesdays and Thursday afternoons, I know there'll be someone around who can help you out with the finance. So if those times and days of the week fit with you, that would be a good thing to do. Or alternatively, I can link you up with a peer support advisor now who's got lots of experience of putting that together, is a whiz with Excel, and if that works for you, why don't we look at that? So John would think with Ian about what help Ian might need just to do the budgeting bit of it. And then I ask again, when shall I get back in contact with you again, and how should we do that? So let's imagine that another 2 weeks has passed and John gives Ian a call and says, how's it going? And he says, fantastic, I went along to the drop-in, met with a peer support advisor, we just bunged it into Excel, made complete sense to me, I think I'm almost there, I'll get you the support plan in the next week, and then I know it'll go through the sign-off process. Or somebody else that John might be working with might say, actually, I'm still really struggling, so the resources were great, and I went to the drop-in, but I still really need a bit more help to pull this together. And what I'd really like is somebody to come and meet up with me and look at what I've done and help me fill in the gaps. And John might say, that's fine, let's think about who now. You know, if you're already working with a provider or you've got good contact with a provider, that might be a great person. Or we've got, you know, brilliant peer supporters who've already got lots and lots of experience of doing that. In fact, here's my peer supporter handbook. So in this book here, these are not peer supporters, but you might have photos and information about different peer supporters who are able to help people with a support plan. And the information might say a bit about, here's my experience, here's the things that I covered in the support plan, here are the times of day or when I'm available to help people. So there might be this kind of thing available. So they might sit down, look together at this, choose somebody who lives locally and has got similar interests or similar issues with the support plan, and pair them up to finish off the support plan. So what's different about this? Well, what seems to be happening at the moment is that we start here. We start with an assumption that the only way people can do a support plan is by somebody sat with them doing it. And as Lorraine says, we need to really move from that and believe in people's capacity to do their own. And what that means, to get this right, is the sign-off process needs to be as simple as possible. And in a few minutes, Simon's going to talk a bit more about that. And we need to have all these resources in place so that it's really easy for people to get the support that they need from a range of self-help resources, rather than just relying on an expert to help them out. I think support planning should be as simple as booking a holiday. So when you're thinking about a holiday, you know how much money you've got. If you've got a couple of £100, you're probably thinking of a camping holiday somewhere. If you're lucky enough to have a couple of £1,000, you'll probably be thinking about something quite different. You go into thinking about a holiday knowing what your outcomes are. You probably don't describe them as outcomes, but you'll know whether a great holiday for you is a lot of sun, or whether it's an opportunity for adventure and excitement, or whether it's lazing by the pool and just reading books, or whether it's exploring cities. So you'll know what it is you want to get out of a holiday. There are then lots of ways that you can get information about what holiday fits your outcomes best. You might watch travel programs, you might get travel magazines, you might be talking to your friends, you might look at TripAdvisor and find out what's going on there. You know, there are all ways that people make decisions about their holiday. You've got your budget, you'll be deciding whether you want to use that all in one and go on a package holiday. So that's really simple because you pay one lot of money to one people, a bit like an individual service fund. Or you might be breaking it down to say, I need this much for car hire, this much for flight, this much for accommodation. Everybody's doing this most of the time, and really support planning should be that simple. That you know what your money is, you know what your outcomes are, you can find out your options through a wide variety of means. If you need help, you can go to a travel agent if you really do need to do that. You put your budget together, you book it, and off you go. So I think that's where we need to be with support planning. I think the Empower and Enable approach is a great way to get started on that. It requires that we do something fundamentally different in relation to the information that's available for people in a self-help way, and that we make this as simple as possible in order that we can get the best fit with how people want to be supported, so they get the support plans. And it's not how quickly people do it for me, it's how many people are able to do it for themselves. And to get closer, moving from 2% to 40 to 60% is really what we're aiming for. Thank you.